Hi everyone, I hope you're good guys and welcome for a new video. So today is the part 2 of my explanation of my Peak Time Ableton Techno template. So if you haven't watched the first part, go to check it. I will put the link in the description. Today we're gonna talk more about the arrangement, the structure of the track, how elements interact with each other, and also we're gonna talk about mixing, the automation, and mastering. So let's have a listen to the track. How does it sound, just to remind you. Alright, so that's the track. Anyway, we're gonna go through, so you're gonna hear pretty much every part of it. So first, before to start, the main idea, basically I had this lead. And that was the main idea and how I built the track around. I've been heavily inspired with elements from Joyhauser, and the structure of the track is pretty similar as well from this track. And so the idea was to have this kind of staccato lead, but to have as well a kind of legato lead, which is kind of similar to the staccato one, but in legato, which is kind of following as well the same melody. So the whole track will be like between these two main elements and playing one the staccato, one the legato, and so on. So as a global structure, you can see you have first the intro until there, and then you have the first break, and then you have the first chorus, you have a break, then you have the verse, and then you have the final long break where you have after the second chorus, and then you have kind of a bridge and an outro. So that's the main part of the track. Now we're gonna go from the beginning until the end and see how I built everything. So we start the intro. So the first 16 bar, you can hear there is a low cut. So the kick is playing. You don't have any drum except this shaker perk loop, and you have the harp as well playing. Oh, sorry. And you have the tom as well. Shaker, harp. Then after 8 bar, you've got the synth one playing, which is this one, to kind of set the mood of the track. So here the track, I've tried to always have a variation or new element or remove element every 8 bar, so you will have like every 8 bar something coming. Then after 16 bar, you have the low cut, which has been removed. So the low cut is on the mix down, has been removed here. You can see it, and here was activated. Here is been removed, so the kick and the rumble start, and I had some open hat as well. You have the SFX helping. Alright, you have this for 8 bar, then come close hi-hat, and you have the verse. So you have the lead staccato start to play, but not the main pattern. It's kind of like the verse intro pattern, which is like just a pretty simple pattern, but it's kind of getting the listener to get used to the main idea of the track, or to kind of put the listener in the mood and to get familiar with the main original sound of the track. Same as well with the synth, this synth as well. If you remember from the video last week, this synth preset, it's very similar to the lead staccato, which the point was to really like kind of say to the listener, to prepare the listener for the main lead basically. And the harp, sorry, I forgot to say, but here as well, playing along all the track, and it's like kind of being the backbone of the track, and it's there without being there. It's like kind of helping to tie all elements together. You know, it's not really that important, but if you remove it, you feel like something is missing, and yeah. So then we arrive at the close hi-hat, and we start to hear the lead staccato. Short low cut. I always like to put a low cut sometimes, you see, like before to start the next 8 bar. help with the transition, add. Alright, and it continues this way. Then after you have the open hats, basically the pattern is changing. So you had like just one open hats offbeat, and then it's coming like more like in the shaker mode, so it's like going up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's giving this driving effect. You see, you used to have just this, and it's going something like this, so very effective. And you can see we start to hear as well the League 1 legato, but it's kind of a filter. The sound is a filter because you don't want to reveal everything, you want to keep a little bit for the break. So and you have sent on. So you can see for this part, like I said, you have this lead and you will always have like sent to answer to him, like you see, because there is this space here that you need to fill. And so most of the time it will be like this horns and sound. And here as well I use the lead staccato to kind of respond it to. So then we come to break. So again, there is alongside between usually transition, there is always the SFX to help the transition. And then we start in with the break. So the break goes like this first. SFX helps the transition here. And then you can see all the drums are being removed. You have again the lead playing, but this time you see there is automation on the filter. So this one. So this way it's like rather than this one. So to really make, okay, things are starting now. The pad break start to play. Very subtle, but kinda add a bit of tension because it's this same sustain note playing along, and during the second part as well, after you will see later the filter is opening. And we have as well this drone as well here that I used to again add tension. This drone it's kind of a low drone, buzzy, and this is always nice because it's kind of a heavy ambience, we know, which is kind of stressful a little bit. Alright, and you can hear here how things get very quiet. So you have your sent one, but again I automate the filter and I bring it down, so everything starts to kind of fade out as well. And I've done the same, you can see here with the drone. Everything starts to slowly fade down. The reason why is this way you have way much more impulsion. For example, the next time you send is gonna be playing. This way it really helped make the listener understand that the first part of the break was really like to calm things down. Like, okay, we just have something, now things start to calm down. And the second part is like, okay, now things start to get excited again. And it's important to do that because you create a great and huge contrast for you for building release and tension. So instead of having always the tension the whole time during the whole break, you know, if you go down and then after you go up progressively, it works better. So then second part, the main lead play again. You have this send as well, which is the filter is gonna open. Slowly it does the same here with the frequency of the pad. The pad is getting louder and louder. The drone is the same. Yeah, the filter open is getting louder and louder and brighter. And you have the snare as well, we start to play progressively as well. As you can see, all the automation are going up this way. And one thing you have as well, you have on the mix down this riser, which is kind of a washout effect, which is kind of as well going up and bringing more tension. And then just right before the drop, what I've done is I've stopped one bar before everything is cut down, so you have a kind of silent, just one bar before. And then you have this clap, which is playing just half the bar before, the sound is dropping. So it sounds like this. And then you have your drop. So yeah, that's how the first break and build-up has been built as well. There is the SFX as well, I didn't say, but during this build-up. So yeah, first part to calm everything down, gauging to a low level of tension, and then after bringing up the tension back and stopping just one bar before the drop, putting the clap, and that drops your sound. So then we have the drop where you have just the kick and the rumble and your tom playing with the lead and the arp. And then you can see the horn is playing and they are responding to each other. Forgot to activate the reverb. Nothing changed, I just add open hats. So again, here after 8 bar I had the open hats, and then after the other 8 bar, short break like I've done before and I like to do, and then I introduce the ride and descent back. Alright, and then we come into break 2. Basically break 2 is kind of to introduce the verse, and I needed a kind of break to make the transition between the lead staccato and the lead legato, so that's why there is this break. And you can see the first part of the break, you still have the lead staccato playing, you still have your drums playing except of the ride, and then on the second part you will have the send one which is gonna stop, and you will have the send legato starting to play. I had as well the shaker and the snare roll are already start to play from the beginning. Again, here it stopped one bar before, and so altogether it's still have your drums. So basically I've done that this way. It's like if I had like duplicated this one, and I say, okay, this second part of my main melody, I remove it and I let it play by the legato. So as you can see, here the one which is playing is not the first part here, but is as well the second part. You see, because let's see that it's like if it was like this and like this, for example, let's say, and I kind of made fade in, fade out. I remove this one here. Okay, this one here was like this, and I cut it like this, and up you get your transition between both of them. And then the clap again. Then goes the verse. So the verse starts with obviously the lead now playing in legato. You start straight away with some hats, with the open hats, but playing the basic pattern on the driving one. The driving one is gonna be for the second part, as you can hear. And then after, remember every 8 bar I like to change. And here, so as I said, the lead are always like playing and there is answer question. So for the verse, to enter the main legato lead, you have the staccato here, and you have this on break send. I usual little low-cut up just before the next 8 bar. Then I bring the driving hat. And then you can see there is a low cut right before the final long break, but still in the verse part. It's just to have the transition. So you can see like how everything is changing every 8 bar. I could have had, for example, another time with the ride. The thing is, you have to keep things interesting and always keep moving on, and you cannot like get bored. So you always have to have changement and things happening fast. So that's why straight away off we enter in the long break. That the low cuts help as well the synth horn as well, even if it's usually mainly to answer the main lead, it's always as well helping to have the transition. And then we enter in the long final break. So here, as you can see straight away, we get rid of all of the drum. SFX help the transition. So here I've done exactly the same kind of method than on the first board. I mean, like when the break starts, I have a lot of elements, but I make them fade out to kind of bring calm. So you have this one, but you can see the frequency is going down. You have the pad, and you can see the pad is going down as well. And you have the utility. I don't know if I have done it here. No, here I left the up the same way, but you have the drone as well. As you can see, it's going up, but then it's going down. So for this final break, you can divide in four parts. So you have the first part where, okay, we bring everything down, we calm things down. Second part, we start to reintroduce the main lead. It's kind of saying like, okay, now the main lead is back. The pads start to go up again. You can hear some SFX. Third part is now we start to build the tension, we start the build up. And so you can see here what I've done. I add this half final break, which is kind of following the same melody than the lead staccato one. One thing I would have done is basically, as you can see, I took this pattern, and you can see here it's a kind of different pattern, but it's basically exactly the same. I just like took this and put it up together like this, and you Control G, and that's your pattern. So it's like playing. It's like playing close to each other all together, and it's kind of accentuate the stress because everything is playing now faster, not faster, but together. You know, you don't have the break or you don't have time to breathe between the two hooks. They are playing one after the other, and on top of that, you have this trancey kind of harp playing in the same time, which is kind of just on the top. You can just hear a little bit on the top, but it's kind of giving a stressful effect. And you have this as well, which is coming slowly, the filter. So here again we introduce the kick, but because on the mixdown you have the low cut here, you don't hear you hear just a low cut kick, and still all the synths are still going up. This legato synth you can hear like it's getting. The drone have been up as well, and here because of the mixdown you have this riser effect as well. You have everything which is kind of slowly, like more and more filter. You can see how it's moving, and you have more and more delay and more reverb. And yeah, it sounds all together like this. And again, it stopped one bar before. And so here what I've done, basically right before the power before, I kind of cut this melody. You should have these two notes here. I've kind of tilted them. One of the main reasons is because it's this chorus staccato, which is lead one staccato, is gonna play at the drop. So I didn't want it just right before to have a listen to it. I wanted to have the legato one. This way it's kind of creating a bit the surprise. And the thing is, instead of doing the same melody as normal, as you can see, it's a different one. I've just transposed it octave upper, and this way it's giving this excitement between. And yeah, that's it. The job is done. I didn't put the clap this time. No snare roll because it was like everything overdoing it. I had this on break because it kind of at the right moment and helped the transition between the build up and the one bar stop before break before the drop. And then we drop again. So here we drop more or less exactly like the first drop, except that this time you don't have, this time the main is playing and not the harp. It's like the opposite, you see. And on the first drop was the harp playing, rather on this one is distant one playing. Then straight away we enter with the driving open hats. So usually, you know, in the first one we was like first the open hat. Here straight away driving open hats, and we add the harp. And so you can hear on the second part, basically we took that and we've put it there following the main lead. So obviously it's a different melody than this one, the one we use in the verse. This one is more like following the lead staccato. It's exactly the same note, but we add the root note on top here. You can see A, A, F, A, D, A, E. And it's just following and it's just giving in this nice variation from before, and we add the ride in the same time. Again, before the next bar, a little low cut always help. Again, you have the 2 cent on responding to the main lead. Here is the only part of the track where you have like 16 bar and without any variation, but it's kind of the momentum climax of the track, so you know you want to have a little bit longer of the taste of it. So before to jump straight away into the outro, we kind of wanted to have a verse 2. You can call it a verse 2 because it's basically the lead 1 legato playing the same melody than in the verse 1. It's kind of similar to the verse 1, but it's not really a verse because it's kind of as well helping the outro, so I've just called it bridge. And basically from the 8 bar before, we just remove the ride, but keep the driving hats, add the shaker, remove the lead, the main lead staccato and lead 1 legato melody, and we bring back the lead 1 legato melody from the verse. And it's just a short break. So you might wondering why we didn't made a longer break, because you see here, to change from the chorus to the verse, we had a longer break, and here we just like use a very short break here. It was just like to keep the energy, and you know, like I said, that's why I call it bridge. It's really a transition between the momentum and the outro, and it's not really a verse, you know, it's more like a transition. It's kind of hard to explain, but I hope you get what I mean. If I was putting a longer breath, it would have kind of cut the energy of the track. You see, like here, like the track, you keep the energy, it's like things are still happening, and it's like there is a continuity, if we can say so, like things are keep continuing without being interrupted too long or without having a too brutal changement. It's more natural, let's say. Yeah, here again you have the pattern played for 16 bar without any variation, and then after you have the outro. So just I didn't have like a final break, just like low cut. And basically the difference is like we just get rid of the lead one legato. Everything is playing the same, the synth and the up, and then every 8 bar we get rid slowly of the drums element and of the hats and until the end. So after the kind of classic DJ outro. And yeah, that's it for the main arrangement and the main idea. And now we talk about the arrangement. Let's talk about automation and variation. So there is not that much like variation automation, like filter modulation, because this track is more about changement, and like the variation are more like in the MIDI part. You can see in the lead one staccato, lead one legato, you have one like playing sustain note, one playing like a up, you have different melody. So that's what's more adding the variation rather than having the, you know, most of the time or often you have like just one melody and it's playing the whole track, and you modulate the cutoff, the decay, and you make it evolve along the track. This track is a bit different. It's more like about having a different kind of synth answering to each other and playing at different time, different melody along the track, and that's what keeps the track interesting. Every time you got something changing. For 24 bar you have this legato melody, then for the next 24 bar you have the staccato, and then you have as well again the legato one, and then you have back with the staccato, and then you have again the staccato, but you have the legato playing as well in the same time, but a different pattern than before. And then after you have back to the legato one. And that's how the variation I've been creating during this track. And automation, you don't have much. The automation here in this track, it's mainly during the break. It's the element being filtered down like this synth, or like the pad as well. You see, like bring down the things, or with the drone, like to automate the volume and filter to really fade in and fade out sound, and this way you kind of bring out tension, so you get rid of the tension, or you make your sound quieter, and just before to get louder enough to kind of create contrast and kind of create tension release variation along the track. And that's how you can see here, it is down, so it's like quiet, then you bring up to add a bit of tension, and then straight away come down, up, a bit of release, everything is quiet, calm, and then after this gonna create a bigger contrast when later on this time it's at the maximum, and here I can slowly bring it up, bring in the tension and for the momentum of the break. And it's worked the same with the snare roll up that I've played here, and you see with the velocity going up and up and up to be the tension. That's the main modulation and variation of the track. There is no much. So yeah, again, here the automation modulation are not that prominent because of how this track has been structured in terms of melody and element playing and answering to each other. Alright, so let's talk quickly about mixing. So if you're familiar with my video, you know that I've kind of mixed as I process, and anyway you can see when you watch the element, you can see here there is nothing really which is look like a mix. Here is the same. You don't really have nothing. Just one thing here. With here you have a drum bass. So usually I do that with my hats. I like to do that, or I just always add a bit of drive and crunch, just to add a bit of drive and crunch. Self-explanatory, kind of making a bit louder. And I like to use the transient, but a negative value. I do that because with the hats, it's nice to put your hats in with reverb, but because of hats are very noisy element, they usually in the reverb create a lot of noise that you don't really want. And transient kind of reduce the tail of your reverb. So you can tell me, why don't you just reduce the decay of your reverb? But I could do that. But the thing is, if I do that, the tone of your reverb changes as well. So what I want is keeping the tone of the reverb, but without having this long noisy tail after. So I could have used the gate, basically. After each reverb, you can use the gate to kind of cut this long tail. You can do that, or usually I use a drum bass on top of as a group, and I just reduce the transient, and it's usually like kind of cutting all of this. I don't know, I like to use it on the hats because it's making everything sharper, the transients are sharper, the hats are more precise, let's say. So that's one thing I like to do on the hats. And yeah, usually if you see usually the pattern of how I mix, it's always more or less the same. I always add a bit of saturation. So it depends obviously from one track or one element to another, but I will always have saturation, delay, EQ, and reverb, and always the same reason. The EQ is always to cut the frequency I don't need. I will always try to boost the one I like. You can see here I cut, I boost. So always I use saturation to kind of add harmonics, or sometimes a little bit of grid to my sound. And then it's always delay and reverb. And again, delay is most of the time it's not really a mixing effect. It's more like a kind of sound design purpose. It's to add a rhythm basically to your sound. So you can see here you can hear this ping pong delay. It's sound design effects more than a mixing effect. And the reverb, so the reverb as well, the way I do reverb, I usually go around 30%, and then after I just change the decay times. I have basically this preset that I use most of the time, and I always use the same preset. I just change the decay and the dry rate because that works well for me. And depending on what I want, the decay time. So if it's a cent, I will go around 2 seconds, 6 seconds between this time. Depends how I want my scent. But here the thing is with this track is, for example, during the drop, you just have this scent playing. It doesn't have nothing else, so it needs to take space, you know. So that's not a problem to have a longer reverb because it's the only element. So you see, if I put a shorter decay, it sounds more weak and more like it's not in the front enough. I don't know how to explain, but with a longer reverb, it takes more space, obviously, and it feels more full, and which is great for this kind of track because the main lead, as you can see, there is no damage element, and even you can see it's like playing, and then there is a break between the two melody, so you have time to have a long reverb. Obviously, it's not always the case. Sometimes I would choose a shorter decay because if it's more like a melody with a shorter space between notes, I will probably do different. Again, here the reverb is no that much mixing. It's more about as well giving a tone to your scent. So yeah, that's how I kind of mix. And goes the same with the hats. So you can see here the delay is for the rhythmic purpose. If you hear here, just to add groove. And usually for the hats, the way I choose my reverb is I always have like shorter decay for the close hats, so I don't want. You see, this long tail is completely unnecessary. I just want this kind of room reverb effect. Rather than the open hats, it's different because these kind of open hats in this track, they are very driving and very the same like with the lead. They are a bit kind of louder than usual. You know, you can hear them really well, and it's what gives the driving effect. So I will go for something a bit larger than just a room and go like around 2 seconds. You can even go this way. It's a bit too much, but usually around 2 seconds it works well. And same with the ride, you know, this kind of is sung with a long tail, so it doesn't mind to have a longer decay than just the sharper one from a room reverb. And yeah, and like I said, For my hats, I like to have my ride and my open hats on the stereo on the side, so that's why I use this delay as a hat effect. And it just works better. It leaves space in the middle for other hats element or other element or you kick. And yeah, it sounds better as well. So yeah, after here you see I don't have much process saturation to make things louder, reverb. Again, here I have a longer reverb because the clap here has just one purpose. It's like just before the drop. So it was just working better with a longer decay, so that's why I choose a longer decay. Usually, if the clap is more like playing like a snare or something like this, I will put probably a shorter decay, but this way it's worked well with a long decay, so yeah. And yeah, here again, I have chorus, but this was like a sound design purpose. I explained in the first video, and you can see there is no much. Here I made the EQ and automate, but you can see saturation, EQ, delay, reverb. You will see always the same saturation, delay, reverb, EQ. So then after why I put the EQ after before, there is no rule. Sometimes I put it before, sometimes I put it after. It's more or less the same. There is no big difference. And here again, saturation, EQ, reverb, sidechain compression as well. I put a little bit just to help the kicks cut through the mic. And yeah, that's pretty much with the mix. You see here, I don't even have nothing, just an EQ when I feel that there is frequency I don't want. You can see always the same delay, reverb. Here there is even nothing. EQ, reverb. That's why I always say that. I know it's easy to say that, but a very big part of your mix is picking up the right element, choosing drums who are fitting well together. Because for example, if you snare or you clap or your hat doesn't really fit the mix, it's maybe not because it's not because it's the wrong EQ or it's not EQ properly or because it's not compressed properly or whatever. It's probably because your hat just doesn't fit this track and you have to change it. So when I add new element, I'm always super careful. It's fitting perfectly that almost I don't have anything to do with. I can just put it like this and it works. You know, usually just have to cut a little bit of frequency. You don't need and add a bit of reverb, but that's it. And it's the same with all other elements. The send, I always try to pick up send that's fitting well the rest of the track before to add it. For example, once I have this staccato effect, which was my main lead, all the other send I add, I try to make sure that they don't play on the same frequency range. Like this, they will not overlap each other when they play together. Just keep in mind, if you have two sends who are playing on the same frequency range, it will fuck up your mix. Even if you start to be like a surgical EQ, removing some frequency or some other, it will probably sound messy anyway. Rather than if you make sure that both sends that you choose, they have a different frequency range, they work on a different space, they will just fit well together. So that's my advice that I can give you. That's it for a mix, so let's jump into the mastering. So the mastering track, I didn't know if I wanted something super loud or no. So let's hear first without the master and how does it sound. So yeah, let's pick up this space for the mastering. So yeah, what I have done, let me deactivate everything. Okay, first thing, utility, make your bass mono for club purpose. I bring a little bit of width up, just like to kind of widen the stereo a little bit, but it's very subtle. Then a bit of EQ, I lock it at 25 Hz just to remove all of the unnecessary sub-frequencies. And then what I've done here, I've just boosted at 55 Hz just to add a bit more low end. Then here I removed around 140s just to I don't know, maybe I should just put the kick and tom, maybe you will. I don't know, it's just make the low a little bit less muddier, I would say. So you lose a little bit of power, but you gain a little bit of clarity. And then you adjust this. You have this boost here, it's very subtle. Then you have a boost at 1 kilo and here at 5 kilo. It's just to add a bit more punch and clarity. And just I cut here 17 kilo, just like get rid of all of this unnecessary. Alright, then we have a glue compressor, which is kind of so again, slow attack to let pass the transient and a slow release ratio at 4. And then here I use the EQ to kind of to don't have my kick trigger, because usually without the EQ you can see that it's the kick which is basically triggering the compressor, but I didn't want it that. I just wanted like the scent, like just to tame a little bit the peak of the scent. So that's why I use an EQ with a low cut. This way the kick doesn't trigger my compressor, and you can see it's the scent which is triggering. You can see, so without, you can see the scent is still pushing it even further, but you can see that and again I always reach around 3 dB of reduction and compensate the makeup. I activate as well the soft clip just to add a little bit of wave shaping distortion to the input signal. Okay, then saturator just to add a bit of extra harmonics, 3 dB, just 70. Makes things louder, brighter. Then I use the color limiter, so this is Max for Live device. And again, it's just add a bit of warmth to the... So always being very gentle with that as well, just a slight saturation. Change the color to your taste and just loudness, just like a little bit. You can see it's even it was maybe too much. And then the limiter just... And yeah, that's it. We are done. I hope guys you liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to grab the template. The link in the description. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and see you soon. Bye bye.